Right. So first topic we have discussed today about is recently we have volcanic eruption after a long period of time in Ethiopia. Okay, Ethiopia, the volcano is referred as Haile Gubbi volcano as such. Okay, so recent event basically after 12,000 years volcano, we have discussed three types of volcano on the basis of periodicity of eruption. Okay, we have active volcano, dormant volcano and extinct volcano. So this was example of dormant volcano for 12,000 years. After 12,000 years, first time we have seen such a large scale eruption as such. Okay, and most interesting thing is we have discussed that if magma is of basaltic nature, eruption is kind of gentle, we can say. Okay, but here we can see what kind of eruption, most explosive eruption, okay, of this area. So massive ash cloud basically was emitted here, and due to the movement of winds, what we are seeing is that flight were diverted because the ash clouds are able to reach nearby western coast of India and all that. So a lot of flights were diverted in the Africa also. Now key concept simple, we already have discussed what is volcanic eruption. We have release of three things: gas, solid particle called as pyroclastic materials, as well as volcanic magma or lava through the Earth's crust. Already we have discussed, we have the plates moving over which layer? Asthenosphere. So whenever plates move over asthenosphere, whenever you have the weakness in the plates, wherever you have the break or fault development in the plate through which magma rises. And explosivity depends on which factor? Last class also we have discussed expansion of gases. Okay, if there is more of a silica based lava, they are flowing at relatively low velocity, moving at low velocity. In that case, they will be able to trap more and more gases. Suddenly, when they come out from the vent, the gases expand violently, and the gases expand violently, they cause break in the rocks. And due to this break in rocks, magma is burning these all rocks. What do you see? Large volume of volcanic ash cloud. Okay, ash cloud, core, as we have discussed. Okay, you have the dust particles and all, they are generated as such. So that is the point. So what is unique here? It is having basaltic lava, but at the same time what we are witnessing? Explosive eruption as such. And that is what geologists are very much confused about. So now we have analyzed the sample, and now we know that it does not only contain basaltic lava, this Haile Gubbi volcano also have silica based lava. That is why we have seen explosion as such, okay, explosivity as such. Location wise, if you look, part of volcanic zones we have discussed in the class, total 5 volcanic zones we have covered is present on the earth. One of the volcanic zone is located, where we can say, on the African Rift Valley, extending all the way from Red Sea to this area. So it is part of the same Rift Valley system. Here you have a country called as Ethiopia. In Ethiopia you have a place called as Afar. In class, I think I might have given you example of Erta Al volcano range. So this Haile Gubbi is part of the same Erta Al volcano. Nearby you have Nyamuragira, we have talked about Nyamuragira volcano, Norogingo volcano. So Haile Gubbi is part of that. Overall, what kind of volcano it is? Type of volcano we have discussed: stratovolcano, that is very steep, vertically high. Shield volcano, like you see in the case of Hawaii, because lava erupts gently and it flows as a faster rate. When it flows at faster rate, what will happen? It will create something like this kind of shape. So this kind of shape resembles shield of a warrior, right? Like this part, if you talk about, this is right shield like a structure that they take. So that is why it is called as shield volcano, broad gentle slope. Why such kind of volcanoes form? Because of the eruption of basaltic lava. Then what is the cause? Same thing. What is the plate tectonic involved here? Okay, Somali plate you have on the eastern side. We have discussed Nubian plate that you have in the western side. So basically along the East African Rift Valley, okay, Arabian plate also you have on the North Red Sea area. So what we are seeing? Continental divergence. As continental plates are pulled apart, what happens? Magma rises up. Magma rises up, pressure releases. Pressure releases, what happens? Eruption is triggered. So that is the tectonic cause. Okay, what is the production impact? Same thing. What is released during volcanic eruption? Ash particle, pyroclastic material, debris of different types we have discussed. Volcanic dust, volcanic bomb, okay, lapilli, scoria, a lot of things are there. Plus nitrogen and sulfur compound, these are also released in huge amount. Air travel hazard, you can understand, because of the release of sulfur compound, nitrogen compound, what will happen to overall air quality? It will degrade as such, okay, as itself example. highlights ongoing geological activity in the African Rift Valley. Okay, so volcanic eruption in the African Rift Valley, their frequency is very low as compared to other regions like Circum-Pacific Belt talk about, or Mediterranean Belt to talk about, Mid-Atlantic region to talk about. But nonetheless, such kind of eruption every now and then is pointing to which fact? That it is not a stable area. Still continental content divergence is going on. Still the continental plates are being pulled apart as such. So that's the significance of this particular volcanic activity. That is about the Heli-Gubbi volcanic eruption. So that is how you have tried to connect with the current affairs also. The static part, what you have discussed, everything that you have discussed, almost everything. You have to add just example. Second topic is related to the 19th edition of exercise, military exercise that is conducted between India and Nepal, called as Suryakiran. This particular edition is going on at which place? Pithoragarh in Uttarakhand. Why Pithoragarh in Uttarakhand? Simply because, what do you have? Nepal has border here. Okay. Question like this can be asked. For example, Suryakiran exercise is going on. Maybe they will not ask that question from Suryakiran, but they can ask you geography based question. What kind of geography based question? Which of the states of India share land border with Nepal? Okay, which states to share land border? We have Uttarakhand, then Uttar Pradesh, then Bihar, then Sikkim. Okay, so that is how geography perspective also we have to keep adding. So Suryakiran, 19th edition of Suryakiran is going on in the Pithoragarh region of Uttarakhand. First exercise was conducted which year? 2011. Now, if you look at the previous year questions, how they are framing questions from this topic, they will give you a statement that recently exercise Suryakiran was held between India and Nepal. This was the first such edition of exercise, or this was the first such kind of exercise, bilateral exercise that was conducted between both military. That will be incorrect because it is, right, first edition was in 2011. In this exercise, what is the aim? Overall, Suryakiran exercise aim is under UN Chapter 7. UN Chapter 7 is which deals with the this conflict and all that. For example, sanctions are imposed on Iran, for example. Okay, or recently UN has imposed sanctions on North Korea also. So all these sanctions are imposed under Chapter 7. Okay, whenever you have the any cases of what you can call as terrestrial conflict. Okay, so under that, both of the countries are trying to engage in which kind of operation? Sub-conventional. Sub-conventional means one step below conventional. Conventional refer to full-fledged war, right? In the full-fledged war, when you are conducting military operation, that is which kind of operation? Conventional. One step below, what do we have? Sub-conventional. So like terrorism, like threat, if you tackle those, it will be which kind of operation? Sub-conventional operations, right? So that is what the focus is. What is the overall focus? Same, peacekeeping and management of conflict. Okay, so that is the overall aim and objectives of this exercise. Here also they can frame question like this, that both Indian and Nepalese military have conducted exercise largely with the objective of thwarting Pakistani military objectives. That will be incorrect. Okay. Similarly, training component, it has multiple training component depending on the terrain. So here participant engaged in the jungle warfare. They engaged in what? In mountainous terrain, very important. Why mountainous terrain? Because the biggest threat that we face related to terrorism is from the POK side, Pakistan occupied Kashmir side. And which kind of terrain it is? Mountain terrain. So if you are participating in such exercises, you will be able to conduct operations later on with more ease as such, right? That is the reason. HADR and medical response. What is HADR? Humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Okay, that is the full form. So we know that entire Nepal region and then further you have the Indian region is vulnerable to earthquake-like activities, landslide-like activities. Okay, you have heavy rainfall, cloud bursts and all that. So many times in the same area, Nepal-India border, you see such disasters taking place. So in those cases, there might be a possibility or need of joint effort. And that is when these exercises can ensure that militaries are able to participate properly. Medical response, that is for evacuation, research, this rescue operations and all that. Apart from that also, exercise has which kind of component? Environmental conservation. Okay, because again this is very environmentally sensitive area. Integrated ground aviation operation. Integrated means both ground forces, aviation forces, they have worked together. They have joint and carried out joint operation as such. Now in this 19th edition, some new technology were added and used for the first time in Suryakiran. Okay, and that is everywhere we are seeing these days. We are focused more now on what? Drone and counter drone warfare. And that is why the involvement of unmanned aerial system is being seen. Then we also have participated in what? Drone based ISR. ISR means surveillance, reconnaissance, operations and all that. Okay, intelligence or search. AI enabled decision support, right? Unmanned logistical system, armored protection system. So all are basically, you not have to remember all these points one by one. Simply what you have to keep in mind, that in Surya Kiran for the first time we have brought in, what we have brought in? UAV related angle, UAV related system. Why? Because we have learnt our lesson from the Operation Sindoor, and after that what we saw between India and Pakistan. And also if you look at the recent war that is going on between Russia and Ukraine, this is not a conventional warfare as we saw in the 18th, 19th century and even in till early 2000s. This is completely a tech enabled warfare, AI based warfare and all that. Okay, so that is why we need to be properly, we need to have proper this understanding about this. Overall, if you look at the relations, because exercise is conducted based on the bilateral relation between countries as such. Okay, we cannot go and start exercising with Pakistan. That will not make any sense, and it is also not possible. So why we are conducting exercise? Because we enjoy very strong defense relations with Pakistan. That with Nepal as such. That began somewhere, we can say, during the British time itself, when Nepalese and British government signed a treaty. Treaty is called as Treaty of Sugauli. Under Treaty of Sugauli, it was permitted for the Gurkhas. Gurkhas are largely inhabitant of Nepal. So Gurkhas can join Indian army. Okay, that is why you have Gurkha battalion, special battalion in the Indian army as such. Similarly, after independence, we again signed Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Under Peace of Friendship, what we have ensured? That Nepalese people do not have any kind of restriction for moving into or exiting India as such. They have been given which kind of treatment? National. Same kind of right that is available to any Indian is available to any Nepalese as such. So for the movement, free movement regime is a term that we use. They do not need any kind of passport, visa and all that to enter or exit India as such. Plus they have been given residence. I mean, they can get Aadhaar card, they can get all their local documents and all that. Trading perspective, property perspective. So that is because of this particular treaty as such. That means we can say, if we talk about actually bilateral relationship of India with any countries, the strongest and most liberal relationship with which we have is Nepal as such. Okay, no other country can come even closer to Nepal as far as the openness of India is concerned. Okay, the rights that is granted by government of India is concerned. So it is in this context we have to understand Surya Kiran exercise. Significance is simple because we share a long border, and I told you in internal security classes that Pakistan uses Nepal border for what? Cross border infiltration, for sending fake Indian currency note, to bring drugs, to bring the weapons, right? So that is why having a joint operation with Nepalese army and Indian army, it overall strengthen our border security approach as well, plus interoperability. That means joint operation can be conducted. Overall, what does it enhance? Two things: counter-terror operation as well as disaster response operation. Reinforces same thing, cultural, military and strategic ties that already is very well developed, and overall it supports regional stability. Okay, why regional stability? Because all the insurgent groups, okay, they are operating along the, whoever are operating along the Indo-Nepal border, okay, or Sikkim-Bhutan border and all that. Many times in the past they used to run whenever government launched operation, and where they used to hide? Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nepal. So if we have very robust relationship with Nepal, we can launch a joint operation. We did that earlier with the Bhutan, and we have flushed out Ulfa, for example. So today Ulfa is decimated. Why? Because of the joint operation. Earlier they used to hide. They keep hiding for 1 year, 2 years. When they see that now security situation has improved, they again used to come, enter India, carried out a strike. So in future we might need to carry out joint operation, and that is when this exercise can be beneficial in nature. Next, third topic is National Scheme for Manufacturing of sintered REPM, that is rare earth permanent magnets. Okay, that is the objective scheme the government has devised. Cabinet has given it approval. The program will be launched for over a period of 7 years. And what is the overall outlay? 7,280 crores. This has been given for this particular scheme or mission, right? What is the objective? Domestic manufacturing of, or indigenous manufacturing of what? Sintered rare earth permanent magnet. Rare earth minerals you have. So that you create what? Permanent magnet. By using which process? Sintering. Sintering is you take different rare earth metals, you create alloy, and then under high temperature pressure you magnetize them. So that entire process is called as sintering. Okay. The application of high temperature, high pressure on the rare earth mixture to create permanent magnets. So that is why we call it sintered rare earth permanent magnets. What is the overview of a scheme if you look? To create 6,000 million tons per annum of such kind of permanent magnets within India. Currently we talk about India is largely dependent on import. Okay, whatever minerals or permanent magnets we are using in our industry, we are largely importing it from other countries as such. And we know that in the case of rare earth mineral, which country enjoy a dominant position? China. They have control over entire supply chain, production and all that. And we know that we do not have very warm, good relation with China. So in the case of adversity in the future, China can cause export restriction. It has done already on USA. Okay, they have restricted several rare earth mineral to be exported to US, Canada and all that. Same thing they can do with India. In that case, our industry will suffer. And these are not something that is required for few industries only. These are very, very important this commodity that is required in all the next generation industry. Electrical vehicles we talk about, right? For example, AI based industry we talk about. That is why now the government has focused on developing domestic capacity, okay, of such metal, this permanent magnet construction as such. Okay, again same thing, the this 750 crore is given to capital subsidy, 5 global beneficiary, each will be given an opportunity to produce how much? 1200 million tons per annum of permanent magnet. So contract will be given to 5 different beneficiaries, companies as such, okay, to ensure competition, scale and overall global competitiveness also we can say. What is the scheme duration in it? Same thing, 7 years, where 2 years will be focused on setting up of such manufacturing capacity and 5 years will be what? Incentive phase, where production has to be ensured, okay, for production has to be realized as such. Context of market talk about is also very important because by 2030 it is expected that the demand of such permanent magnets will double as per current research. Currently we talk about India is largely import dependent. How much we are importing? Annually, think about it, 53,000 million tons. Still, as compared to import, our capacity is very low. How much you want to produce? 6,000. Okay, so still it will be not able to meet our entire demand, but to some extent, gradually it is a welcome step. Okay, we're taking the baby step, first step in this particular direction. As such, China, as we have discussed, dominates the supply, but many times China causes delay. There is a cost and security risk because of the adversarial relation between both nations as such. Okay, what are RPM? Same thing I told you. Basically, these are permanent magnet made from which kind of elements? Rare earth elements, okay, such as neodymium you have, okay, samarium you have, for example, cerium you have. So a lot of such rare earth elements are there. And as I told you, sintering. Sintering is when you mix the rare earth alloy and then magnetize them. And that is why, for example, what are the some common permanent magnets? NdFeB. What is this? Neodymium, iron, boron. Then we have SMCO. What is SMCO? Samarium and cobalt alloy. So by combining different rare earth minerals, we can create strongest commercial magnet, okay, on the earth. Feature is such magnets that is created through rare earth, they have high coercivity. Coercivity means magnet can demagnetize. So if coercivity is high, the probability of demagnetization will be low. That is why we are calling it what? Permanent magnet. Okay, they cannot be demagnetized as such. Second, energy density is very high. Energy density would have studied in physics. Magnetic field density we talk about. Okay, so that is also very high. Overall, magnet is very compact, but at the same time they are very powerful in nature as such. And such kind of magnet is required in those industry which require what? High precision, like robotics, for example, or high power applications such as electrical vehicles, for example. So that is why we are focused upon this industry, because in the next 20-30 years, our development objective is more leaning toward cleaner fuels. Okay, and what we want to do? We want to reduce the number of this petrol and diesel related vehicles, and we want to increase number of electrical vehicles. Electrical vehicles we cannot significantly increase if we are dependent on import and all. So that is why we are trying to build domestic capacity in this case. The strategic importance also we have there. Same thing I told you. Critical for which kind of sector? EV motors, okay, braking of electrical vehicles, steering process and all that. Support overall supply chain resilience, energy security and clean mobility mission. Same thing. Electrical vehicles are example of what? Clean mobility. It also aligned with the longer term goal that Prime Minister Modi has given. By 2070, what he has said? That India would become net zero emission country. That means CO2 emission will be zero. Zero means whatever we are absorbing and whatever we are emitting, they will be perfectly balanced. That is why zero emission. And aligns with Viksit Bharat 2047. How does it align with? Same thing. Net zero means less CO2 emission. Less CO2 emission means you are burning less petrol, less diesel, and you are using more electrical vehicles as such, right? That is the point. Boosts overall, in every sector we are now focused on what? Becoming Atmanirbhar, okay? And Atmanirbharta is something that can also come in advanced manufacturing, and this is where this step becomes significant as such. Right? So that is about this particular mission. From examination perspective, what you have to keep in mind? What is this mission? What is its objective? And how is it significant? This is very, very important topic because both in prelims and mains, questions can be asked, right? In prelims, what they can ask? Conceptual question about what is REPM, what kind of rare earth minerals are used there, what is the advantage of RBPM. Okay, so same thing we have discussed. In mains, what they can ask about? What is the possibility, or what are the what are you talking about? In mains examination, for example, what they can ask? Electrical vehicles we talk about, okay, or our focus on electrical vehicles and all that. What are the challenges we face? One of the challenges will be over dependency on import as far as the rare earth permanent magnets are concerned. Then you will write what is the way forward, or what are the steps government has taken. This mission you can write as one of the major steps, okay, to boost overall adoption of electrical vehicles and everything like that. So very important topic. Next is the 10th session of APDIM, that is Asian and Pacific Center for Development of Disaster Information Management. Okay, that is the full form. Overall, what we can understand, it is related to which issue? Disaster management. Okay, so recently in New Delhi, okay, the 10th session of this meeting of this committee was held, and it overall emphasized upon India's leadership, at least in Asia Pacific, Southeast Asia, with related to disaster information management as such. Okay, so what is this? Let us try to understand briefly. So first of all, where the meeting was held, no need to remember, but overall it was in Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi. Okay, right? Reinforced India's role in disaster preparedness and resilience, and collaboration elevated with same organization. APDIM we have discussed, UN SCAP. APDIM basically is functioning under UN SCAP. What is full form of UN SCAP? No. United Nations Economic and Social Council for Asia Pacific. Okay, so UN SCAP, headquarter currently in Bangkok, Thailand. Okay, so Asia Pacific regional partner and all that. So APDIM basically works under UN SCAP itself. Where is headquarter of APDIM? Tehran, Iran. Headquarter of UN SCAP, Bangkok, Thailand. That is how in prelims question will be framed. Okay, because recently APDIM in news. Headquarter is something that keep asking every now and then. Okay, whenever you have like New Development Bank or Shanghai Cooperation Organization, all these meetings occur. Generally in the prelims you will see questions being asked from there. So this is what we have to focus upon. Now what is the overall focus area in this particular agenda? In the case of disaster information management, we have to build our capacity. Capacity building means we are able to transfer and share information not only within India but with other countries of Asia Pacific, South Asia and all that. Second, we have to emphasize on building what? Early warning system for every disaster. Okay, like for example tsunami, we did not have early warning system. We developed it after 2004. Okay, so that is what we have taken a step in. Third is developing geospatial data and tools. What is geospatial data and tools? That we use to understand how changes are taking place on the Earth's surface to predict possibility of disaster as such. Okay, so that is the point. Third, last is climate resilient planning. Okay, so new cities we are developing, new infrastructure that we are developing. It should not be developed randomly. It should also take into account what? Climate resilience. What does it mean? We know that one of the major effect of global warming can be rise in sea level. So when you are planning new cities or new infrastructure along the coastal areas, you have to take into account this factor. Okay, otherwise after 30-50 years, if sea level rises by a few meters, what will happen? Entire infrastructure will get submerged and all that. Okay, so coastal regulation zone we have brought in. To which area you can develop infrastructure, which area you have to leave. That is all comes under the climate resilience planning as such. Then we have a strategic planning, same thing. A lot of things. You have that progress review of regional initiative. A lot of regional initiatives have been taken by the Asia Pacific countries, Southeast Asian countries. So review of those of initiative as such. And overall, the meeting also focused on creating a roadmap between which years? 2026 next year to 2030. How the countries should work together to enhance their cooperation in disaster information management as such. Disaster management, and within that what we have? Disaster information management. Like we have discussed, in the case of Himalayas, we have seen large scale Landslides, right? In landslides, a lot of people were losing their life or have lost their life, unfortunately. So now we have understood that if we are able to look at all these changes taking place in the upper part of Himalayas, okay, how the volume of water in the lakes are changing. Basically, on that basis, we can predict the possibility of GLOF event, glacial lake outburst flow. And if we can possibly predict it, we can carry out evacuation before these events occur. We will be able to save life. This is example of management of what? Information related to disaster as such. Okay. So disaster information management, that is the overall objective here. Supports overall also what? Because it is not a national but international events. So overall, what does it support? Transboundary hazard cooperation. Okay, like GLOF event itself in Himalayas, where it can be triggered. Sikkim, if you talk about, further up what do you have? Nepal you have talked about. So if a GLOF event is triggered in Nepal Himalayas, you have a lot of rivers coming from the Nepal Himalaya itself toward India. There is a possibility of damage where? In India also. In that case, what do you require? Transboundary cooperation as such. Or forest fire is other disaster that you have. Between Bhutan and India, what do you have? A large forest area. So if forest fire occurs in Bhutan, it can very easily spread toward the Indian territory. In that case, India by itself cannot do everything. It has to work along with Bhutan as such. So all these kind of cooperation is also encouraged under this particular program, okay, this particular institution as such. Then coming to the global alignment, talk about supports implementation of what? APDIM supports implementation of this is something we have discussed in disaster management chapter. Okay, what do we have? Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. Okay, disaster management done or not? So later we'll discuss what is the entire Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. Overall, it has given 7 targets to the entire world under this framework. 7 targets related to disaster management has to be achieved, and also 4 priorities, you can say. This is how we can define it. Later we'll study in detail what is the entire framework. It is not something that is the subject matter of today's class. So 4 priorities, 7 targets. Each of these have to be achieved by every country with reference to disaster management. Okay. So this particular program also focuses upon encouraging country to achieve this. If country do not have capacity, in that case capacity building can also be done, okay, by provision of funding and all that. Next, what do we have? UN has come up with SDG, you would have read about, Sustainable Development Goal, that has to be achieved by year 2030. Within that SDG also, what do you have? Some points related to disaster management. So to achieving the goals under SDG also something that is subject matter of this particular commission. And overall, what does it promote? Risk informed development. Earthquake prone areas, there if you are building infrastructure without considering seismic code, there is a possibility of the entire infrastructure collapsing in the future. So information related to disaster plays a very important role, not only in protecting the lives, saving the lives, but also in future planning. And that is where most of the effort is currently led. APDIM, we talk about structurally. What is it? You can say it is a regional institute of, what is the full form? Remember or forgot again? United Nations Economic and Social Council. Of which region? Headquarters of APDIM, where is it? Tehran, Iran. Not of UNESCAP. UNESCAP is headquartered where? Bangkok, Thailand. What is the vision? Accurate disaster risk information for sustainable development. That is simply you have to keep in mind. Okay, disaster risk information part is part of APDIM, so that sustainable development can be achieved as such. Okay, function, it serves as a regional knowledge hub. Knowledge hub means a country has faced a certain disaster, it will learn some lesson. Okay, the objective is that this lesson they have learned does not remain within that country itself. It is also transferred to other countries, right? Like for example, Australia, they have witnessed a devastating forest fire. So whatever lesson they learned, India sent their forest officials there. They understood this. They looked at what Australia did to prevent such kind of fire, and they implemented this in the Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, right? That is example of what? Knowledge hub. All information, all learning from different countries are brought together at same place where countries can share it, look at it and learn from each other, mistakes and as well as innovations. What does it strengthen? Risk information system. Okay, the risk of a particular disaster, risk of a particular this event as such. Enhances data users capacity and overall we can say it promotes what? Regional cooperation. Regional cooperation between which countries? Which regions? Simple. Works under what region? Asia Pacific. So Asia Pacific means what will come? South Asia, Southeast Asia, all the way you go to Japan, South Korea and all that, along the rim of Pacific, this Pacific Ocean, Australia also. That is the overall function, right? This is something that is related to INS Mahe. Maybe we have discussed that also in last class. Same topic you have again, repetition, because earlier it was planned to be inducted, now it is inducted as such. So INS Mahe, again we can revise. It is commissioned into what? Indian Navy. Okay, lead ship of, again, it is a class in itself. Why INS Mahe is a ship also and class also? It is the first ship of that particular category, that particular class. Now, next ship, whatever will be inducted under this particular class, they will be named something different. But overall, they will be said to be a ship of which class? INS Mahe class. Okay, like you have INS Nilgiri class ship. Okay, you have Nilgiri class frigate, basically you have. Okay, Talwar class frigate. Why Nilgiri class frigate, Talwar class frigate? Because INS Nilgiri was the first ship. Why Talwar class frigate? Because INS Talwar was the first ship. So that is why class based differentiation to do. What kind of ship it is? That participate in anti-submarine warfare. Okay, it is able or capable to destroy submarines that is roaming around in the littoral waters, continental shelf zones and all that of India as such. Overall, it will provide what? Boost to the coastal defense and submarine warfare, and okay, it will also helpful in development of new generation littoral combatant. What is littoral combatant? I told you that ocean is divided into two parts. One is deep ocean, high seas we can say, and other is this coastal areas. So ships that are largely protecting the coastal areas, okay, or basically patrolling in the coastal areas, they are protecting the ports, harbors, important industries, infrastructures. They are called as which kind of ship? Littoral combatant. Why? Because depth of water in the coastal areas will be what? Very, very less, few meters. Depth in the deep ocean will be very high. So any ship can move in a deep ocean, no matter how big ship you have. But for coastal areas, you need such ship which can traverse in a shallow depth of water, right? Draft level, you call term that is, and that is where the role of such ships can be highlighted. Okay, so these ships are example of littoral combatant ship of India. What is significance? As all other, if we talk about before few weeks back, we have talked about India inducting lot of which kind of ship? Frigates. Okay, INS Udayagiri we have discussed about. Okay, INS Tamal we have talked about. Many, I think 5-6 ships more than that we have talked about. So frigate is kind of relatively medium class, much more larger ship that is responsible for providing security in the high seas, deep ocean level. These are the ships that are providing security in the coastal areas. But what is common in both of these ships being inducted? We have now focused heavily on indigenization. That means the use of indigenous component in this ship is much more higher as compared to early times, right? So early times were dependent on foreign manufacturers, especially in Navy. We have inducted most of ship from Russia, for example, right? Now we have focused on developing it in home itself. So 80% of its component content is indigenous. Which organization has built it? Cochin Shipyard Limited. As the following question can easily be asked, okay, if UPSC want to ask, because a lot of ships are being inducted. So one side they can give you what? Ship. One side they can give you builder. So many ships we have discussed built by Majgaon Dockyard Limited. Some of them has been built by Garden Research in the Kolkata. Some of them by Vishakhapatnam. Some of them by Kochi. So we should keep this in mind. Yeah, that is the point. Atmanirbhar Bharat naval shipbuilding. That is the overall message by construction of this ship. Plus, what we have done here, we have integrated advanced system along with the ships also. So that is the point. Next is, as I told you, what is the ship largely engaged in or will be used in? Littoral. Littoral means near the coast operation. What kind of operations, if you go in detail? Anti-submarine warfare, simply destroying the submarines and such. Second, what do we have? Coastal surveillance. Surveillance means it ensures that no enemy ships or unregistered ships are able to enter in the coastal areas. We have taken a lot of measures actually here. Okay, we have instituted what we call as VTMS, Vessel Traffic Management System. Okay, we have installed AIS, Automatic Identification System. Every vessel that is registered in India, and if it is longer than 20 meter, they have been given a unique identity. So whenever these ships are moving in the waters, what happens? You are getting all these identity on the radars as such. Okay, and you will know that yes, all of these are registered ship. You get some ship on radar which does not exhibit any identity marker as such. You will understand that this ship is unregistered, so you'll go and investigate. Maybe it is enemy ship. Okay, maybe this is a ship that has basically due to a storm has entered into Indian waters and all that. So you can do the investigation. That means what you need to do? Surveillance. You can send these ships if you feel that there might be explosive there might be terrorists there. Okay, in that case, surveillance can be done. Third is mine laying. This was very much in news a few months back when you have crisis in which region? Strait of Hormuz, right? What did Iran said? That will lay mines in the entire Strait of Hormuz. Why it was significant? Because it is used for large scale oil flow. Mines are laid, that means any ship that will come in contact with this mine will simply explode. Okay, so it means movement will be prohibited, stopped. So in the case of warfare, suppose that you are facing a risk that enemy ships might capture and enter into your territory and all that, what you can do? You can lay mine in the coastal areas so that enemy ships are not able to enter a certain areas, okay, limit as such. So around the sensitive infrastructures where you have industries, where you have the ports and all, you can do that to prevent any kind of damage to the coastal area, or even for example, we can say the this naval warfare. Then underwater reconnaissance you can also do. Underwater reconnaissance means same thing, to identify whether enemy ships are flowing or moving through underwater areas or not. And where is it effective? We have discussed because of its small size, low level displacement, it is effective where larger ships cannot operate. Specification simple. What is the length? 78 meters as such. What is displacement? 1100 tons. So it is very small size ship. Frigate is 6000, 7000 meters. Okay, displacement you have, tons displacement you have. Speed 25 knot, 1800 range, that is nautical mile we calculate ranges. That means without refueling, ships can traverse a distance of 1800 nautical mile as such. Right. So that is roughly it will be about between 3000 to 3200 kilometers. Okay, that is the range. Endurance is what? 14 days. Okay, it can traverse in the oceanic areas. Right. This is the most important part. What is the draft level? Less than 3 meter. Okay, that means it can move in a water which is having what? Depth of even up to 3 meters or slightly lesser than that. Okay, so that is what you see in the coastal areas. Larger ships like cruisers, destroyers, frigates, they need at least 15 to 20 meters of draft. They cannot enter the coastal area as such. Okay, so that is why these ships are very important for coastal defense. Class, again, name, origin, on basis of what? You can say it is on the basis of Mahe. Mahe I told you in last class. It is basically located along the Kerala coast, but it is administrative territory of Puducherry. Okay, you have 4 places I think we have discussed: Puducherry, Mahe, Yanam, and Karaikal. Okay, that is the regions. Crest is Urumi sword is used as an identification or crest. That is blade-like sword. Okay, that you see. So it overall represent 2 things: lethal, but at the same time it is agile. Okay, not stiff, not strict as such. First off, total how many ships we have planned under Mahe class? 8 ships. All of them will be built by which shipyard? Cochin shipyard. And the Mahe is first ship of that particular class itself. Full induction by 2027 of all these ships will be done as such. Okay, that is the expectation. What we have come up with this new class of ship? Earlier we had similar class of ship that was doing duty of littoral operation, combat operation. This was referred as which class? Abhay class. Now Abhay class is very old. Most of the ships of this fleet is retired. Okay, they are not able to perform their duties properly. So we are going to scrap them and gradually induct it. Okay, so that is the point here. Strengthens overall Indian Ocean submarine hunting capability, and largely it is targeting which country? Not Pakistan. Pakistan does not have that much submarine capability. China. Okay, overall you can see, because China is trying to build what? You would have read maybe about a string of pulse policies. So all the way from Bangladesh, you have Myanmar, okay, you have Sri Lanka, okay, in the Maldives nearby, okay, then we have the Ethiopia, they have recently, okay, this developed a base there. They're trying to build a lot of bases all around India, and they can use this base for both kind of movement. That is commercial movement as well as military movement and all that in the future. So they will use this to deploy a lot of submarines and all that, and that is why, yeah, to counter the threat by China, we are trying to build our capability as well. Okay, now coming to the current, some of the questions related to the topic today. You can look at the question, try to answer. With reference to Heli Gubbi volcano, consider the following. It lies along the East African rift system, major divergent plate boundary. Recent eruption has been linked to continental rifting and mantle plume upwelling. It is a stratovolcano located in the Himalayas. What is the correct answer? Simple. Okay, 1 and 2 only. Okay, East African Rift Valley, continental rifting means CC divergence. Okay, that causes upwelling of mantle plume. Then next is with reference to INS Mahe. Which of the following are correct or is correct? Hmm? All three are correct. Yeah. Second is correct. Okay, that is for development project 75I. We have brought in